Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Oren Weizman of Rouse the Boroughs. He has just released a fantastic new track called Insomnia, and I'm super excited to talk to him all about it. Oren, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. Super happy to have you on because the song is fantastic. And first thing that I'd really like to hear about is you are not the only person in this collective of artists. However, you are the focal point, I would say. So I'd love to hear kind of like the inner workings of how it works when you guys put music together.
I've been very lucky when we started this project. The idea was a little bit similar to some of the bands we've idealized throughout our childhoods, like Toronto. Toronto has a broken social scene and a little bit bands of that
Yeah,
similar style. So that for us coming into it, we wanted something where, yes, we had a focal point of creativity, which is some of the stuff that I brought forwards, but it was important to let everybody's talent speak. For me, I got to work with guys like Kutnar, Huong Su, others on other tracks, and Robin Chinoa on guitars on other tracks. So it was really about bringing a sort of collective of people who were around me to help me, use their talents, but most importantly, find a way where I could sort of uh, find a conduit for what I wanted to create into their talent.
sure.
So Rouse the Boroughs is that a lot, and Insomnia, especially, I think, in its simplicity, shows how far we've come as people to try to make those visions happen. Because I start off with a song going in one direction, and usually I'll present it to the people like Martin, and he'll take it. I mean, I never thought Insomnia would sound that way, to be honest, until
No.
finish line. Yeah, it was a surprise for me.
Well, yeah, because I took the opportunity to listen to the rest of the music that you guys have put out, and it's sonically different from this song, like by far. The other stuff is not necessarily jammy, but this is a lot softer and a lot more. It feels like thoughtful and heartfelt. I don't know what was the vision behind that before you guys got started on this one.
It's a song that we talk, especially in the times we're living in, about
Yeah,
people and the different way we deal and approach, to some extent, I wouldn't say loss, but the absence of people. I think that's something over the last 2 years that we've undersold. We've talked a lot about several things in the context of the current times, but absence is something that we never knew that would translate very good in a song. We know love translates very good. We know a lot of things translate very well into songs. Loss is something I didn't really expect, to materialize as well as it did in that song.
sure.
The song sort of like covers someone that I lost years ago, and it's sort of like it came back to us when we were talking about songs that we wanted to work on, and I brought up Insomnia because it's a song that I had written a little while back.
Okay.
And for some reason, when I wrote it all those years ago, it didn't bite the same way that it bites now. And
Why do
I
why
think
do you think that is?
I think the reason why that is because um, you know the topic I said of absence, but of loneliness and all those other things. When we spent 2 years isolating ourselves from people, and the way we've been dealing with that specific, like increment in our life, which was never there before,
Right.
just resonated differently when I brought it back up again. When I brought up Insomnia, maybe it's that, maybe it's just the you know maybe it's just because we don't really talk about these things in that way. Really, people talk about, like I said, people talk about loneliness, people talk about all these things that are sort of orbit around it, like going around the pot, but nobody
Right.
ever really talks about the pot. And Insomnia was, I think, when we finished it, the reason why it gave us shivers a little bit is that it felt like the pot was there, and had the sort of, when the song goes, because and I know, that it's like, what I mean, what I'm talking about, I don't need to say it,
Sure.
and it was just there. And when we finished it and I heard Martin's strings on it, and the way the strings intensify as the song goes on, it's almost counter to how lyrically the song manifests itself. sometimes shallow waters feel so deep and all those things. And, it sort of goes into a darker place, but in a louder place at once. So maybe the fact of that silence, that absence, that loneliness in its, in what it is getting louder resonated in that moment with the arrangements in a different way than it did before. I'm not sure. I guess that's how it came up to me.
I mean, we perceive music so differently from year to year. Like,
Yeah.
not even on music we're making, but music we're listening to. Like, any album that you didn't enjoy the first time you listen to, you can come back in 5 years and it might sound completely different. I think it depends on what kind of headspace you're in, whatever mood you're feeling, and what like creative space you're in as well.
I think that you're absolutely right about that, especially that we live in a time now where, where the vacuum of everything is around us, the vacuum of belief in our institutions for some people, the vacuum of belief in a functional society, the vacuum of belief in each other. The thing that stood out for me when we were done with it is that, I didn't expect that sort of vacuum to resonate as much as it did in the end when we were done with it. And
Sure.
you brought up a really good question, a really good point about our headspace and revisiting songs years later. It really was that. It really was that, where it just meant something different this time around.
Yeah, I fully understand. It doesn't, yeah, I don't particularly make music, but it happens in all forms of media, in my opinion, like movies,
Yeah.
art, yeah, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So before we started recording, you were mentioning a little bit your particular role in the collective, and I'd love for you to expand on that, like what you take care of specifically.
A lot of the time it sort of like comes up with, what are we in the mood to record? Are we going into a post-punk phase? Are
Right.
we feeling more like a ballad? What do we feel like bringing to the table? And usually, when I bring it, when we bring a song, like whether it's Maribel or other songs we've written in the past, where I felt like I wanted to address themes like as simple as, you know, uh, work environments. I mean, in one of our songs, we even discuss the glorification of school shootings or other things. It usually follows up a little bit with the way I deal with, with my direct environment. And when I bring it up, does it resonate with the people I bring it up to? Does
Sure.
it resonate with the guys and the girl? Do you guys feel this? And sometimes they'll tell me, like, we had a song a little while back called Cape Breton. And, we were so far along in the song, we were writing so much on it. And it just came to a point where we were looking at each other and we didn't feel like it fit the way we were writing music at that moment. I mean, we've
Sure.
done ballads. It felt right on with the type of ballads we were used to doing. But they were like, no, Oren, this is not the feeling right now that we're all
Yeah.
going with. So usually I bring something. The rule is I bring something and then we work the arrangements together so that there's, sort of everybody has their role. But that's sort of like the way it's brought. It's a little bit difficult because, a lot of these very talented people I work with, some are young, some are very much older. So I also have to find a way to make them understand how I navigate social media. Some of them don't deal with social media. So there's a little bit of that. When it's a collective, it really is. Sometimes I deal with people, like I make music with people that come into the equation that I never thought I'd be doing music with. We were playing with Cameron Black, who's a saxophone player,
Sure.
on one of our tracks that we're working on right now. I never thought we'd be writing for saxophone. So it's really
But it
like,
keeps things interesting.
yeah, it definitely does. But it's also, it's a lot more improvisational sometimes sometimes I feel like the music sounds like more like something like Yola Tango. Sometimes I feel like we sound like Pink Floyd. Sometimes I feel like we sound like Sonic Youth or, Broken Social Scene. So, I think we've gotten to a point now where we figured out our style. We have a pretty good idea how we do it. But at the same time, it really, like, there'll always be something to surprise me that they'll bring to the table.
I'm really happy you brought that up because that was the next thing that I wanted to cover. Was normally a question that I ask is, are you going to be looking to experiment? But this project is pure experimentation.
Yeah,
From one
definitely.
song to the next, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there is a cohesiveness, like you can tell it's
Yeah.
coming from one group, but you're always pushing the boundaries of what you've done in the past. So the question sort of becomes is, do you see yourself reining it in the future, only making one style or at least narrowing it down?
Um, I think so. I think that the more we sort of discover how, we fit with each other, because now with the end of COVID, I think we're going to start writing a lot more with each other,
Sure.
aside from just, trying to social distance in a recording space, or recording pieces one by one,
Sure.
everyone on his side. I think that it's going to create a lot more cohesiveness. I think we have a pretty good idea what style we're going to go for. The question stays, I think, for us, um, you know, I mean, every day I challenge myself with this: is will they still trust what I bring to the table, and will I still deserve their trust in what I bring to the table?
Right.
It's a big part of that. We bring in new people, they bring in new people, but a big part of it is what I'm bringing to the table, respectful of their talents, respectful of their time, and respectful of the immense amount of energy it takes to put something like this down. And that's a
Yeah.
big thing for me.
Well, does the process change from song to song because you have so many other people that are sometimes involved or not involved at all and they come and go as they please?
There is one rule, which is that
Okay.
whatever they bring to the table, whether it's a drum line, whether it's a bass line or violins or anything, I mean, we can talk about, like maybe small things, but we don't change what either one brings to the table. It's sort of the counter McCartney thing. I saw the Get Back documentary
Yes.
recently, where Paul was like, looking at George, and all the guys said, no, I want you to do it like this. I want you to do it like that.
Right.
There
Right.
is no, I want you to do it. You bring what you want to the table, and then we figure things out from there.
Okay.
That's very important to the way we do things. So that's the number one rule. To change the way we're doing things? No, I just want to make sure that, I guess that for me, that the quality of whatever I bring to the table stays consistent. It's a challenge for me, but at the same time, it wouldn't be interesting if it wouldn't be challenging. And I abhor laziness and songwriting. I always want things to be to be happy-go-lucky, to be easy, even if some of those songs deal with stuff like grooming and very hard
Yeah.
subjects to bring to the table. At the end of the day, this whole record that we're doing right now, that was called the John Gale School Crossings, is a big thing on the experience of children, and the school environment, and how we live it, and how I've been doing so much reading on the environment inside of schools, and how toxic things can be for children who are neurologically different and who have their issues adapting and integrating. A lot of the things we're writing, whether it's for Insomnia, last year's news, even Maribel, and everything like that, is about dealing with those feelings in that environment. And there was already a sneak peek of it in Cosmic Creatures and the previous record.
Yeah.
But it feels almost like we've owned it, we've owned up to it now, so we're more comfortable writing for it.
Um, do you find that it's easier to make music within these groups when you have similar like inspirations and influences as far as like who you listen to on a daily basis?
I mean, no, but it's funny in this group is when I told them, like, I want to write songs, like we were like, Sonic Youth broke up like 10 years ago and there's no more
Right.
new Sonic Youth songs. I should write some Sonic Youth style songs. And everybody was looking at me like, who the hell is Sonic Youth? I was like, oh, well, they're
Oh,
more
let me open up
more
your
like this
mind.
person.
Right.
Yeah, they were like, they didn't understand where I was getting at. A lot of people have trouble, there's an expression, between millennials and sort of Gen X, they call them xennials, or
Right.
xennials. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it made me realize that, the big challenge is always when I bring these songs, or how we do them, is to convince people when you work in these environments, to answer your question, is to make them fans of the things you like. Because I discovered discovered an artist like Phoebe Bridgers through this. I
Sure.
would have never listened to Phoebe Bridgers before that, but when I heard those ballads, I was like, well, you know what? I feel like I could write stuff like that if I put my mind to it. So
Totally.
I've discovered a little bit myself through it, and I respect what they bring to the table, writing in these groups with stuff that I'm not familiar with. But that's the big duality of Rouse the Boroughs. It's that there's no real, we're fine. We're fine doing both things. We're really fine doing them both.
Sure. I enjoy that though because it gives you the freedom as an artist to obviously
Yeah,
do whatever you want, but you also
yeah,
have to border the line of it not feeling like a job. You know, and I
that
think that you've done a good job of that by not
yeah,
being like the focal point.
yeah,
You give creative liberties to these other people that come and go, and that it's kind of a nice thing.
yeah. And I think that for me, it also puts me in a zone where I feel, to a large extent, where I have to push myself to impress these people all the time. So
Right.
there's a little bit
Right.
of that. So there's a bit of that. Yeah.
I get it. Well, you mentioned that you're working with some that are younger than you, like significantly younger.
Um, yeah, I would say some significantly younger, but
Okay,
also significantly from different cultural backgrounds too. I
sure,
mean, we're not. I mean, I grew up in Morocco as a kid.
cool.
One of our friends is in Singapore. Grew up in Singapore. One in the Czech Republic. One of them was from the United States. So we're all like sort of from vastly different backgrounds, not just age groups. It's like
Yeah,
crazy how
amazing.
vastly different backgrounds we are. Yeah,
But that just, I mean, I love that because it shows how universal music is.
yeah.
I mean, especially now in the streaming era where in 5 seconds you can listen to anything you want. It helps make you closer in a sense, even though, your ages aren't close or your
It's
locations
funny
aren't.
you say that because we're thinking when we were working on a song a while back called the Todorora, I think we were talking about re-recording it in Korean. So it
Really?
really goes, yeah. It really shows like when, I never thought like when we recorded Todorora, I recorded it first with me singing. Then the guys told me about how bringing in Sue and hearing her sing the song and how it changed my perception of it completely. And we work with amazingly talented videographers from a few different places. We work with a Mexican animator.
Cool.
We work with a video production firm in Spain called Caravan Video, with which we won a few awards on the festival circuit.
Cool.
So it's also about bringing that creative output to videographers and creatives out there who then manifest their own vision in it too, and that's always very interesting for us too.
Nice. Well, do you have any plans for the next year? Like, are you mapping it out or are you just kind of letting it happen as it happens?
Um, it's the thing is, I thought I had it mapped out,
Okay.
but then
Things change quick nowadays.
weird things
Yeah.
happen. So I don't want to be so arrogant as to say that I have it figured out for the year ahead, but I do think that there's still a lot of music left to write. There's still, I still feel it. So if it still resonates, if there's still something vibrating inside that just creatively makes you still feel valid and that you have something to bring to the table, I still think that there's a lot to write. And I really think now, especially more than ever, I really feel like I have something to bring to the table that now, like I mentioned in your previous question, that I feel we have a more cohesive, more better understanding of the type of music we're doing is
Right.
going to make it easier to write for.
And I'm not sure if you mentioned it. I think you may have. Did you say that you have all gotten in the studio together to make these songs?
Yes.
Or oh, okay, so it's not as remote as it was.
Oh, well, it's 99 I would say, no, 99. I would say 90% remote because
Okay,
of the
okay.
way things were. Because what
Sure.
happened was that a lot of studio spaces in Montreal where we were used to recording in closed down during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So that the artistic sector was really hurt very badly,
Hurt the
but
most.
we're recreating new relationships now with especially in the universities now, especially for string arrangements. Montreal is blessed with a lot of beautiful recording areas in universities, especially the
Sure.
Schulich School of Music at McGill. So we're going to take advantage of that. I think that in the near future, there's going to be a lot of songwriting for documentaries, for movies with the National Film Board of Canada. There's going to be a few projects, but do I see us putting it together and start gigging it? Yeah, we have the material to gig, that's for sure. But
That's what
then
I
I
was
think that,
hoping to hear.
yeah, but the thing is that there is so much, that's the crazy part with Rouse the Boroughs, is that there is a lot of easy stuff we could gig out, but then we'd be leaving out so much other stuff, which I think people would love to hear. That would be a whole creative endeavor by itself to
Right.
take it gigging.
The fact
Yeah,
that you're looking towards the future in any capacity, like obviously
yeah,
things are changing. I mean, I'm not going to say they're never going to be stable, but they're going to be rocky for who knows.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
good to have those lofty goals and to look towards the future. And
yeah.
whatever happens, it's going to happen, and it's going to be great. I have full faith in you.
And thanks. And honestly, for us, I think that the main thing is just, like as long as we keep, as we keep making each other really vibe, I think we'll be good. And I think that there's a lot to look forward to. But I'm always like I said, I'm always looking forward to what's around the corner.
Absolutely. Man, Oren, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to speak with you and to hear. It's just been like, because I either talk to solo musicians or I talk to bands, but no,
Yeah.
really getting the perspective of a collective where you can come and go is like, it's something that I haven't experienced, but it's something that I really appreciate.
Yeah,
So
I really
I
appreciate
thank
you doing
you.
this. I really
I've
do. And
Yeah, I have one more question for you,
yes,
and
go ahead.
basically the question is for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that's going to listen to your guys' music for the first time, what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
A lot of the music I write and I bring to the table is based on the idea that there is always something, even in our the darkest things we can assess to ourselves as human
Yeah,
beings, that we can basically push ourselves to believe in the worst about ourselves sometimes. That never to underestimate, that we are made, you know I mean, there was so much love that went into writing our story. Every story that I write, whether it's one of anger, one of admiration, one of love, one of just, read self rediscovery, is born from the fact that I believe that there is a finality to all that is negative in our lives. That is the thing that has a finality.
yeah.
That the good stuff, the good stuff, has peaks and valleys. But I really think that that's what I want people to get out of the music. I say a line in one of our songs where I say, sometimes freedom is a prison that's locked for goodness sake.
It's true.
But it really is the in part the message that I try to produce out there. But again, in all lightness, I don't think that there's so much serious in this music that I want people to think I'm putting too much seriousness into it. There is a lot of lightness to it, lot of lightness to it, and a lot of humor sometimes. So I just want the same thing. Just enjoy it in lightness and in humor, and just always know that it came from someone that wrote a lot of these songs from, if it's an anger, and the anger of a moment, not in an anger because he is angry, or and that the joy is something that I thrive for in life and that I yearn for, and that's what I want people to get out of it. It's the same thing. It's the same feeling.
That was a
That's pretty much.
fantastic answer.
Yeah.
I think that they will. There's a real sincerity that comes through in what you're talking about, and I don't think that people are going to think you're angry. I think they're just going
No,
to think
no,
like they're
but
going to listen to the stories.
yeah, and then Insomnia, like the whole point of the song is I'm holding on, and I want, especially in these moments when we're at our worst, just hold on for dear sake. That's all. That no matter what in life, hold on. That's all. That's what that song is. I stay awake when people think that I'm asleep. Even shallow waters feel too deep. Well, they are still shallow waters. That's
Love
that.
it. I get it. Well, Oren, again, I want to thank you so much for your time. And
Austin.
I want to plug your music for you one more time. The song is called Insomnia. The collective is named Rouse the Boroughs. We're going to have links so that you guys can listen and follow along and share and do all that fun stuff. But I'm personally invested. I can't wait to see what else you guys make in the coming months. And I hope that you make your way to Los Angeles for a show one of these days. Yeah, I really want to thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Austin, and thanks again for the platform and everything that you bring to the table. It's been an adventure and discovery for us these last few days. So
Very
thank
cool.
you. In LA, definitely. I have a lot of family in LA. So
Come on
if that's
by.
the case, I owe you a beer. Okay.
Yes, you do. No, just kidding. I owe you a beer.
Thank you, sir.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a wonderful day, Austin. Thank
You
you.
as well. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.